Hello, good morning. Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen James, the channel that brings you all your latest Rangers news, guys. As there is yet more transfer news, yet more transfer links, yet more stuff in that silly season, guys, that we keep talking about, isn't it? You know, the whole situation around, who's coming, who's not coming, who's staying, who's not staying, etc., etc. So, look. This is where we're up to now. We've got two players that are linked with the club. Obviously, we've got the latest on the Dor Turgeman situation. Obviously, the Dor Turgeman, the Israeli striker from Maccabi Tel Aviv, who has been linked with the move to Rangers, who Rangers seem very keen on. Even the Great Rangers Review reporting that Turgeman is Rangers are in talks with Tel Aviv over the move for Turgeman. We've also got news on a winger who many people describe as being a future Premier League player, a player who his next move, not this move, but the next move could well be for upwards of 20, 25, 30 million pounds. That's how highly this young Ghanaian international is rated by people in the world of football, and certainly by his former chairman, Darren McAnthony, the chairman of Peterborough. And not before anyone gets into this whole, it's Peterborough, it's League One, Rangers shouldn't be looking in League One. This is a guy who is on the up and up, who, top championship clubs are looking at, and even to some degree, some Premier League clubs have been looking at as well. This is a very good footballer. So look, these are the latest. It's more of the attacking side of the game that Rangers are looking at. And we all know, look, Rangers do need a striker. We need a consistent striker. We need someone we can, depend on to score us 20, 25 goals a season in the league. And obviously chip in with perhaps another 10 to 15 across the cup competitions. Certainly scoring under 20 goals as a number 9 in the SPL is not really the recommendation of a top striker. Top strikers, in the SPL shouldn't be scoring under 20. No striker last season at any team, whether that be Rangers, Celtic, Aberdeen, Hearts, scored over 20 goals in the SPL, which obviously, I think shows the standard of strikers last season in the SPL was exceptionally poor. I think this is a situation where we do need to kind of look at and really look at bringing in someone who can score goals. We'll talk about that shortly. But we're going to talk about this winger first of all. This guy, Kwame Poku is his name. What a fantastic name. This is the young man here. Out of contract, has left Peterborough. Will leave Peterborough because he's out of contract, so he's not going to cost a penny. This is a guy who is exceptionally talented, who you're going to make a massive profit on when you do eventually sell him. And I'll tell you this, he will be eventually sold for a massive, massive profit. Trust me on this one. This is a top man. This is a guy who's going to go for a lot of money in the future. Let's find out a little bit about him. So he's Kwame. I'm going to massacre this, guys. I'm going to massacre this name. Kwame Afriye Abufar Poku. That is his full name. Great name. He's 23 years old. He was born in Croydon, London. He's just under 6 foot tall. He has Ghanaian and English citizenship. Although he plays for Ghana internationally, has had one Ghanaian cap already. He's an attacking-minded player. He's a right winger. Although he can also play left winger and play as a 10 as well. So he provides, a very good position flexibility. And, if you think about modern day footballers, that's what you kind of want. You want that position flexibility. You want players who can play in more than one position. Lyle Cameron is certainly someone who's coming to Rangers who can play in a number of different positions. Players we've been linked with in this window do seem to be players who can play in a number of positions. Matinho was someone who could play in a number of positions. Flynn Downs is another one who we've been linked with, can play in a number of different positions. Vicente Pizarro playing a number of different positions. Even to some degree, Connor Cody, in the centre-back who we're linked with, can also play as a CDM as well. So, you've got a situation there where the players we're looking at are multi-positional players and will give the manager options. He's left-footed, so he's one of those right wingers that likes to cut in on his left foot, would very much follow in the tradition of the Václav Černý kind of position. Abdallah Sima from the left coming in on his right. This inverted wingers does seem to be the kind of designer thing, the in thing these days. And Poku, or Poku, however you say it, is certainly one of those. Although he can play on the left and go outside and whip balls into the box dangerously. As you can see, at the end of June, he will be out of contract with Peterborough. Peterborough have offered him an extension. However, he has turned down said extension, saying that he wants a new challenge in his career. And like I said, there are a number of clubs looking at this young man. He's made 147 appearances for Peterborough in his time there, scored 30 goals, 30 assists, 60 goal contributions in 147. Young player, good player. 75 appearances for Colchester United, 6 goals, 7 assists there. all his football, as you can see, has been in and around the sort of English leagues. Played in the Championship 20 times, League 2 62 times, 100 appearances in League 1. He's played in the EFL Trophy, which Peterborough actually beat Birmingham, a Birmingham side containing Kieran Dowell and Ben Davis. They actually won that this year. He's played in the FA Cup, he's played in the EFL Cup, he's played in the playoffs. He's made a number of appearances at obviously those English levels. Now, so look, I mean, I get the whole concern there will be that he's never played at any level, that in terms of the League 1, League 2. He has played in the Championship. In the Championship, like I said, in England is probably one of the strongest leagues in Europe. It's one of the toughest leagues to get out of and has some outstanding teams in it. The level of football in Championship in England is exceptional. It really is. If you watch any Championship football, then you'll see that. But this is a lad who has the talent to go higher, and I think that's why he's kind of let his contract end at Peterborough. That's why he's not signing a new deal, because he wants a higher level of challenge. And most of those in the know, the coaches at Peterborough, coaches who've worked with him, international coaches, all say the same thing. This is a lad who can play at a higher level and succeed at a higher level. Not wishing to be condescending, but realistically, is the SPL any higher level than the English Championship or English League One? Really? I wouldn't say. Yes, when you play Celtic, it is, but against some of the other teams, is it? I wouldn't say it was. To be honest with you, it's not higher than the Championship. Certainly, when you play the likes of, Dundee and Dundee United. But, certainly in Europe, there is a higher level of standard there, definitely. And that's something, obviously, that he would have to live up to. This is a guy who is not a youth player. He's not going to be a player who comes in and is formed as part of the youth system. He is a player who is going to come in and, be part of the first team plans, and an exciting part of the first team plans. A goal scorer, a guy who can get you 15, 20 from the wing. Very much in the Václav Černý, Abdallah Sima kind of mould. And 23 years old, no significant injury history. Which is obviously massively positive, although I'm sure the moment he's linked with Rangers, he'll suddenly develop a mystery injury like most players who come to our club seem to do. Let's break it down a little bit further. This was this season just gone. Didn't play a fantastic amount of minutes. 27 appearances in League 1, 12 goals, 8 assists, 20 goal contributions from the wing in 27 games. Very, very good. A goal every 172 minutes from the wing. Only played in 58% of Peterborough's starting 11s as well. So this is a guy whose production on limited opportunities has been absolutely outstanding. Played over 2,000 minutes this season, played 2 FA Cup ties, 2 assists, played in the EFL Cup, and had 2 appearances and 1 assist in the EFL Trophy, played in the final. So overall, that gives him a tally this season of 31 appearances, 12 goals, 11 assists, a goal every 197 minutes, 2,364 minutes played, 23 goal contributions in 31 games. Kwame Poku, he looks a player. I've got to say, from what limited footage I've seen of him, from what I've read about him, he looks a player and he sounds a player. He sounds like someone who can come in, hit the ground running, make a difference, really take the game to the opposition. And look, given the fact that we've lost Václav Černý in this transfer, he's gone back to Wolfsburg, and it doesn't look likely that Rangers will go in for him and that he will return to Rangers. I think the likelihood here is very much that, this is a player who, Poku can come in and fulfill that Černý role, and hopefully, this is one we get on a permanent basis. It's not another Sima, it's not the Černý who we're going to all fall in love with and then lose after a season. Although if we did lose him after a season, it would probably be for a substantial profit. This is, like I said, this is how he's been talked about. And these are guys in the know, these are coaches down south that are talking about this guy going on to be a 25, 30 million pound footballer, a very highly thought of footballer. So, this is someone I think that Rangers really do need to push and do need to really go after this off season. He's a player. He is a player, guys. Exciting. I think that's the key word around him. And, I think one of the big things that we all want as Rangers fans is to see an exciting attacking team on the pitch. A team that's going to go after the opposition, a team that's going to be aggressive. And, Russell Martin in his presser, when he was revealed as manager, spoke very much about that, didn't he? He spoke about the fact that he wants to be aggressive, that he wants to play attacking football, that he wants to play on football on the front foot. And someone like Kwame Poku is certainly someone who could do that. So, look, this is someone I think, that Rangers do need to be looking at, do need to be pushing. Yes, there's going to be competition there, certainly from other clubs. But, Rangers have a lot to offer. as we all know as fans, 50,000 people in Ibrox, European football, prospective trophy lifts, new owners. There's a lot going for this club at this moment in time. And yes, perhaps we don't have the pull of some of the Championship clubs in terms of that movement into the Premier League, but in terms of that next step for Kwame Poku, it could well be that he looks at Rangers as a great opportunity. And I mean, let's face it, if this lad can come in, if he can play, Champions League qualifiers, hopefully play in the Champions League, play in the Europa League, whatever, play in Europe, excel in Europe, he's going to attract a much wider audience for his skills, and obviously, going to obviously raise his value even more, raise his wages even more for that next move. And he's got to look at that as a long-term plan. And I think, look, as much as we all hate it, and I'd love to go back to the days of just being able to buy and keep players and use them for 5-6 years and then sell them when we want to sell them. That's not the market we're in anymore. This is a situation where we do need to buy, sell, and trade players. So look, at the end of the day, Kwame Poku for me is an absolute must. This is a guy who we've got to really push it to the max and get after, and hopefully Dan Purdy can make this one happen. Certainly. Right, let's move along. Let's talk about the young man, the striker there. You can see there, Israeli international, Maccabi Tel Aviv player, Dor Turgeman, very exciting striker, top player, tall, 6'1", quick, knows where the goal is. Good goal involvement, can play as a 9, can play as a 10. Someone who's got a good conversion rate. And like I said at the start, we need someone who is consistent, who will score goals for us on a consistent basis. And there's little doubt that Turgeman can do that. And he's been talked of as being a potential, player who really can kick it on to the next level. A player who, for me, is going to be a big striker, going forward. I like Turgeman. I think he's good. Now, there's been a lot of rubbish reported around him. There was a story doing the rounds that the £4 million bid that was put in by the club was rejected by Tel Aviv. Now, that apparently is a load of bollocks. That is rubbish. It's not the case. It didn't happen. There's been no rejection of any bid. And apparently, according to Rangers Review and other sources as well, these are ongoing negotiations for the Israeli international. Like I said, this is a lad who has a lot going for him. He looks, like I said, a very, very good footballer. Rangers apparently very interested in him. Really do want to kind of push the load on him. Really get to the point where this is a guy who they feel can really come in and contribute. If you look at the way he's played this last season for his club Tel Aviv, he made 31 appearances, 15 goals, 3 assists, 18 goal contributions in 31. Played 1,984 minutes, 110 minutes per goal contribution, which is very good. 9 non-penalty goals, 13.79 XG. Scores on average 0.62 goals per 90 minutes, has 2.65 shots per 90 minutes, and has a 23.43% conversion rate. Goes on 2.11 dribbles per 90 and has a 51% dribble completion rate success. He looks like the sort of striker that we've needed for a long time. He's tall. The team lacks height. This is one big thing about Rangers. We do lack height. We do lack big, tall players, and he's certainly someone who has that height at 6'1". He's a very good finisher. He's not someone who will miss absolute sitters like Dessers. He's not someone who's going to need 10 chances to score 1 goal like Dessers. He's fast, he's skillful on the ball, he beats defenders with ease. This is certainly someone who I believe could really come in and do a job for us. Like I said, there's no truth in the whole, the 4 million's been rejected. Now, according to reports, there was the recent Israel-Norway game, which was back in March time. There was scouts from both Burnley and Rangers. Burnley, apparently the new Premier League team, are looking at him. But, certainly Rangers seem to be someone that he is keen to join. He is keen to move on. He is keen to challenge himself and move on to the next level. So I think this is a guy who, really could come in and, like I said, do what we need him to do, which is score 20-25 goals in an SPL season, help us to be more consistent in front of goal. I don't think for Rangers, creating chances has ever been an issue. We create a shit ton of chances. If you actually look at our stats, the amount of chances we create is incredible, but we just don't convert them. That's one thing that kind of, is a big thing, that we don't convert enough of our opportunities. And, someone like Turgeman could come in, I think, and really do that. He could come in and really make that difference, be that player that puts the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. So look, I hope this is a move we're looking at. Certainly, some hope this is a player that we're looking at. He's also got 8 Israeli caps, one goal for his national team as well. So he is a national team player. Look, I want to address something with this one though, and there's a lot of bollocks written about this. Look, whatever you think of what is going on in the Middle East at this moment in time, whatever you think of the Gaza situation, what is going on in Gaza and all that, and that whole situation, right? Whichever side you fall on, okay, this is a footballer. This is a young footballer who has nothing to do with the Israeli military, has nothing to do with the operations that are ongoing, with the defensive operations, with the military operations that are happening in Gaza. That he does not set Israeli government policy. He doesn't decide. He doesn't tell Benjamin Netanyahu what to do. He doesn't. He doesn't go himself out into Gaza and do whatever is being alleged. And I think there's an awful lot of rubbish written about what's gone out there. He's an Israeli footballer. That's all he is. He plays for Israel, and I think there's a lot of shit that goes on that and a lot of stuff that is thrown at him and are thrown at the Israeli sports teams that really shouldn't be. Where do we stop with this? Where do we stop with this? Do you then say, well, I'll tell you what, you can't buy English and American players because we've been bombing Houthi rebels in Yemen? Do you then say that, you can't buy Ukrainians because they've been killing Russians? You can't buy Russians because they've been killing Ukraine? Where does this stop? Where does this genuinely stop? Do you then say, well, you can't sign Arabic players because their countries have appalling human rights records? Do you say you can't sign Chinese players because their country has appalling animal and human rights records? Where do we stop with this ridiculousness? This is sport. This is football. It has nothing to do with global politics. It has nothing to do with setting global agendas and wars and starting wars and ending wars. These are footballers. And, the fact that he is Israeli doesn't matter to me. He could be from Jupiter. If he comes in and scores goals for Rangers, like I said, I couldn't give a monkeys if he's Cambodian, Laotian, Vietnamese, Chinese, German, French, Spanish, Israeli, Irish, American, Canadian, Peruvian. I genuinely couldn't give a monkeys where he comes from. If he comes in and scores goals for our football club, he's welcome. And that's the end of the day. That's how you got to look at it. And the other side of the city will get their knickers in a twist and will get you're signing a baby killer and you're signing a genocide. Absolute bollocks. This lad has got nothing to do with the Israeli mission in Gaza. This has got nothing to do with the Israeli military defending its country. This has got nothing to do with any of that. This is everything to do with the fact that he's a footballer at the end of the day. And let him play football, whether that's here in Glasgow, or whether that's in England, or whether that's in Israel, or whether that's in France or Spain or Germany. I don't care. I couldn't give a monkeys where he comes from. He's a footballer. He doesn't decide government policy. He doesn't do it. He's not part of the Israeli military. At the end of the day, he is a footballer. And the sooner that people who are saying that we can't sign him because he's Israeli, because of what the Israeli government are allegedly doing in Gaza, they're talking crap. They're talking utter bollocks. Because like I said, where does this stop? Does it stop with us banning people because, their country's got appalling human rights records? They've got appalling animal rights records. They've got appalling this record. Where do we stop with this? He's a footballer. I mean, seriously, if there was a comment made the other day, I can't remember who made the comment. There was a comment on one of my videos when I actually introduced this idea of signing Dor Turgeman. And it was a comment about the fact that he was Israeli, okay? And the fact that we couldn't sign him because he was Israeli. And I just read it and I actually just pitied the person writing it, because I actually thought, you've completely missed the point here. This lad, like I said, has zero to do with the fact of what is happening in Gaza. He has nothing to do with those things at all. Genuinely read that comment and genuinely thought, mate, you are talking utter bollocks. This is it. This was the comment. I'm not going to tell you who wrote the comment. If you want to go onto the video and find out who wrote the comment, then please do. A player who represents a country that is bombing undefended children every night will destroy the Rangers. For God's sake, you have no idea what we stand for, our history, or go do your podcast elsewhere. That was what this idiot wrote. I mean, honestly, like I just said, it's got fuck all to do with what is going on in Israel. Fuck all to do with any of that. He's a footballer. Get a life. Get yourself over it. Let's do what's best for this football club. And if that is signing Dor Turgeman, I fully support the club in signing him because he's a good footballer. Like I said, I couldn't care less where he bloody comes from. Okay? At the end of the day, he's a good striker. That's what I want. Someone who comes, scores goals for Rangers. And like I said, if he's from Jupiter, Vietnam, Spain, France, Portugal, Outer Hebrides, Pluto, I don't care. As long as he scores goals for Rangers. Like I said, in fact, he's Israeli. Has got fuck all to do with it. So get a life. Get a life. There's other links, obviously, to other strikers. Matija Fregan was another one, the Croatian from Westerlo. That was another name that kind of came up. He is allegedly, obviously, a player that Rangers have allegedly Rangers are interested in. I know that he is a player that Rangers have looked at in the past. He has been a player that Rangers have, actually looked at. I think it was either last window or when it was when Michael Beale was here. He's Croatian international. He would be a lot more pricey than Dor Turgeman. He's 22, so he's around the same age. He's again 6'1", so again tall like Turgeman. He started his career at Rijeka in Croatia. He currently is with Westerlo, where he scored 18 goals in 69 games. Represented Croatia at every youth level. Again, big, tall striker, quick striker, knows where the goal is, decent footballer. Matija Fregan, that's the guy's name. He's with Westerlo at the moment in Belgium. Like I said, he's one, though, that would cost, I think, a little bit, I think a considerable amount more than Turgeman would cost. When he was transferred from Rijeka to Westerlo, he cost Westerlo €5.5 million, which is about £4 million, or £4.5 million, I think, pounds. So, like I said, a little bit more than Turgeman in that transfer. But the chances of Westerlo just taking their money back for him, so in terms of the fact that we go in with a £4.5 million bid and them accepting it, I think is relatively low. They'll probably be looking to make a profit on the player, so you're probably looking at £6, £7, £8 million for the player, And look, like I said to you, none of us know the transfer budget. None of us know how much Rangers have got to spend this summer. Even the financial experts in the East End of Glasgow have zero. They may feel they do. And Professor Declan O'Reilly of the Department of Rangers Studies at Parkhead University, I think will profess that he's an expert on Rangers finances, but realistically he isn't. None of us know. Nobody ever knows a club's budget. We know that. So look, we don't know how much they've got to spend, but perhaps Turgeman represents a bit more value for money. In terms of the fact that he is worth, he's 4 million now. He comes in, he excels. You could probably sell him on for 10, 15 million in a couple of years' time. And again, like with the Poku deal, it's about maximising player value, isn't it? It's about maximising the amount of money we put into the club, for these players. So, guys, let me know your thoughts on these links to these players. Let me know what your thoughts on Poku is and your thoughts on Turgeman are. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And remember always, we are the people.